December 5th, 1992, Moscow. Two robbers drive up to the office of a private company called MMM. They survey the area and don't notice any security guards. The robbers take two large empty bags from their car and make their way to the building. After breaking down the doors, they freeze in amazement at what they see. The robbers realized that the two bags wouldn't be enough for all the money. The building was packed with money up to the ceiling. Every room in the office was filled with money. The robbers noticed that the alarm had gone off, so they hurried and within 15 minutes had completely filled the car with money and disappeared. A few minutes later, security arrived. They noticed that the office had been robbed and immediately called the company owner, Sergey Mavrodi. He woke up from the call and began listening to the concerned security guards. They reported the theft, but no one could say exactly how much money was gone, as the office was still packed to the brim with money. It was almost impossible to notice if any amount was missing. Dissatisfied, Mavrodi told them not to disturb him at night over such trivial matters. This was because he had many more offices just like this one. By rough estimates, his warehouses stored about 1/3 of Russia's total budget. This is a story about how an ordinary mathematician robbed 15 million Russians of $80 billion. In the early 1990s, Sergey Mavrodi, along with his brother and partner, registered the company MMM. The name was an abbreviation of the founder's initials and would later become a symbol of one of the largest financial scams in history. Initially, Mavrodi was involved in importing and selling computer equipment, and quite successfully, as he knew how to effectively attract buyers' attention with provocative advertisements. Moreover, after the collapse of the USSR, there was a shortage of computers, copy machines, and printers in the country, so the demand for these goods was high. Since his company was quite successful and popular, he decided to attract additional investments from other people. He re-registered MMM as a joint stock company and began selling real company shares. And it worked. People started buying shares of his company, hoping that it would soon bring large profits. Mavrodi realized that the Russian population was financially illiterate, believed in easy money, and was ready to invest in his business. Therefore, he decided to create a large-scale pyramid scheme that would force 15 million Russians to invest in the company. Mavrodi understood the importance of advertising and was skilled at manipulating mass psychology. So, he immediately launched a massive PR campaign for MMM shares, which was broadcast throughout the country. The pyramid scheme advertisements were everywhere, on television, radio, and in newspapers. TV advertising took up 25% of airtime. The commercials showed how different people, from ordinary working men to elderly pensioners, were buying company shares and receiving incredible profits. Almost every citizen saw such advertisements several times a day. If someone happened to avoid TV advertising, they would definitely see MMM posters on billboards with audacious slogans that were in every Russian city. To gain even more public trust and create an image of a successful company, Mavrodi even organized days of free metro rides for everyone. The poor population couldn't get enough of such generosity and believed in the success of the company and its owner. How did the MMM financial scheme work? The organization offered to buy shares at attractive prices, then promising fantastic returns. The company's success was explained by the simple principle of a pyramid scheme. New investors' money was used to pay those who invested earlier. As the amounts involved grew larger, the company paid its investors large sums, although there was no real economic activity behind it. Shares with a nominal value of 1,000 rubles, issued in paper form, began selling on February 1, 1994. But essentially, these were just colored paper without any legal obligation. The shares quickly grew in value following the principle, today, they're worth more than yesterday. Over time, the shares grew 127 times in value. People literally saw money growing in a matter of days. This became a strong motivation for attracting consistent new clients who wanted to get rich. So, MMM offices opened in every major Russian city, where citizens could buy even more shares. Mavrodi turned into a real messiah for ordinary people. Public love was off the charts. Once he even bought airtime on New Year's Eve on one of the opposition TV channels and greeted the population instead of the country's president.
As John Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Happy New Year.
The MMM company became so popular that it symbolized hope for a better future. So millions of people blindly brought all their money to the organization. But all the company's activities were now under threat. The New Year's Eve greeting and the fact that a previously unknown mathematician began equating himself with the company's president caused government dissatisfaction. Sergey was arrested and accused of fraud, and the company's shares immediately fell to their initial minimum. Payments stopped. Millions of people began staging protests and chanting for the government to release Mavrodi from jail. Realizing the enormous public support, Mavrodi decided to take a radical step. While behind bars, he announced his intention to run for the president of Russia, which created new media hype around him. Mavrodi convinced investors that his release would allow payments to resume and ensure promised returns, so people were ready to vote. Mavrodi threatened politicians with his millions of supporters. He could gather a legal referendum with 10 million votes in a week and overthrow the company's political leadership. The authorities were frightened and released him from custody 10 days after his arrest. To prevent future law enforcement raids, Mavrodi still put forward his candidacy for the Russian Federation Parliament elections. He was elected, after which he received immunity. From then on, Mavrodi had even more public support and recognition. So, without wasting time, he provoked a new massive wave of MMM share purchases at a lower price, claiming that their value would increase 100-fold as usual. But this never happened. I make videos myself, and it's quite a labor-consuming and expensive process. So your best gratitude would be a like and a subscription. Thank you. Weeks passed, but the shares didn't grow, and payments stopped. The scale of the scam became so obvious that most people realized their money was gone forever. The collapse of MMM was a blow to approximately 15 million citizens who had trusted their savings to the company. By rough estimates, Mavrodi managed to steal over $80 billion. People began to realize that they had fallen into a trap created by a cunning manipulator. Many of the people that were scammed took their own lives because they didn't understand how to exist further without their savings. Another criminal case was opened against Mavrodi. He was stripped of his parliamentary mandate and put on an international wanted list. They searched for him throughout the world for 5 years, and until winter 2003, nothing was known about him. There were rumors that he had lived in Scandinavia or Greece for a long time. But here too, Mavrodi outsmarted everyone. In reality, he never left Russia's borders. He never even left Moscow. At this time, he was hiding in a rented apartment in a building next to his own house. During this time, he developed online schemes and financial pyramids. through which he robbed 300,000 Americans and Canadians. But following a tip from someone in his circle, law enforcement finally found Mavrodi, and dozens of premises filled to the ceiling with stolen money. According to the published information, law enforcement managed to retrieve about 18 trucks full of cash. After Mavrodi's arrest and the exposure of the fraud scale, the company finally lost its ability to pay the promised amounts. The Russian government appropriated all of the money and, of course, had no intention of returning the funds to the poor robbed population. Mavrodi was put in prison and a detailed investigation began. Year after year, he was kept behind bars, and no one could say exactly how many more years of imprisonment he would be sentenced to. So, Sergey initiated a divorce from his wife so that she wouldn't wait for him and could live her happy life further. Although his wife was against it, Sergey insisted on the divorce and gave her about $5 million from his secret accounts. Mavrodi served 4.5 years, after which he was released. After his release, he tried to revive MMM again, launching new versions in other countries and in new formats. However, the new schemes became less successful and inspired less trust than the original 90s project. In March 2018, Sergey Mavrodi died of a heart attack at a bus stop, leaving behind almost no inheritance, except the sad memory of the biggest financial scam in Russian history.